Hello there, and welcome to The High Ground, a doof bonus content show where we're sailing into Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm your pirate king, Elliot Diebold.
And I'm your pirate lord, Georgia Diebold.
And I'm still just the gross scallywag, Reuben Morehouse.
You didn't do your accent. Oh my god.
Sorry. I want to keep everyone on their toes. You never know what to expect.
Okay, well, this is a calm, chill episode this month. We're taking it seriously now.
Yeah, relaxed and professional. That's the vibe we're going to bring to the show.
Okay, so in this movie, we open with a bunch of dirty criminals getting their
Elliot,
just
you didn't
desserts.
even say what the movie is.
Oh, what's the third one?
Yeah, but we should still mention what we're talking, what this show is.
But mind you, you're coming in now.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
True.
Yeah.
For those of you who have never heard the show before, what do we do on this show? What's the unifying theme of this show?
Reuben, this is what I've been complaining about for literally months.
Yeah. This is a show where we watch movies that are they're just movies.
I'd say
let's not qualify it any more than that.
Fun movies. Not so bad it's good, but not super good, just fun.
But not good, Mad Max Fury Road is a fun movie, but that's also a really good movie.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want movies that are fun but not really good.
We want to laugh with them but also at them.
Yeah, totally.
Equal parts.
Movies that really ride that fine line between good and bad and great.
Okay, so are we done?
Yeah, alright, sorry. So we're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean 3 at World's End. Now, take it away, Elliot.
Okay. So in this movie, we open with a bunch of dirty criminals getting their just desserts. It's a very positive start. It's a musical even. It's very fun.
It's that real relaxed vibe that we're going for today. That kind of vibe.
No, for real, this is one of my favorite movie openings of all time. It catches you so off guard. I don't think anyone could have seen a scene like this coming. It's weirdly dark, just weird. You don't understand why these people are getting hung, and then they start singing, and you're like, "What's going on?" It sort of draws you right in as to what the fuck is happening now. It's also kind of epic because all these people are dying. They start singing a song, and everyone acknowledges that the song is a thing. So yeah, I just really like this.
I feel they felt like they needed to do another dark opening because the first two movies had dark openings. But, I guess in the first movie, the dark opening was the ship being destroyed and them finding Will, and that was very explicitly relevant to the plot.
Yeah.
In the second film, the dark opening was that prison island, right? And that wasn't really related, but this one is so unrelated from the plot.
What do you mean?
Do you think? I think it really sets up the thing in this movie is that Beckett's kind of leading a campaign against all the pirates.
Yeah, it also has the song.
A development from the last. Yeah, and the song kind of.
What does the song have to do with anything?
It's about Calypso.
Well, yeah, and the song is what calls the brethren court together.
Okay, we got to talk about this because this is ridiculous.
How did you not get that?
They say it 8 times, Reuben. They say it so many times.
But this doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? That the song calls the pirate courts together?
Barbosa says it. He's like, "Oh, the song has been sung," and the Queen chimes, and Sao Fang is like, "Oh."
Yeah, and then they say it a bunch of other times too, as they're making their way there.
Okay, I don't understand why that is anything. So I dove into the wiki for this boy who gets hung, who starts singing the song, whose name on the wiki is the Cabin Boy, and it doesn't make any sense. So he had a piece of 8 somehow. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then he sung the song, and that made all the pieces of 8 resonate, which then led to the Pirate Lords meeting. Even though the start of the film is Barbossa going to the Singaporean pirate and being like, "Oh, we need to call the meeting of the Pirate Lords."
No, he takes one of the coins and says, "The song has been sung. We're meant to all be going to meet."
But so whose coin did the cabin boy have to trigger this whole thing?
I think there's just a bunch of those. Like I
Yeah, I don't
assume
know if it was a piece of 8. I think it was just like some other like coin.
Or like
It's
a
not
lowercase
explained.
piece of 8.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not explicitly explained. It's just like there's these coins, and if everybody sings, and then the coins start to vibrate, and that's the sign that the pirates need to meet. Like, I mean,
I guess it reminds me of something that was in the first Pirates movie where they dropped the coin in the water and that like summoned the Black Pearl to come and find them.
Yeah, and it was like a bit loosely explained.
The most nonsensical part of that film. But yeah,
see, that's one of the things I really like about this franchise is like how loose the lore is. Like, in this movie, they're about to get some maps and then just like drive off the edge of the world so that they can go to Davy Jones's locker to flip their boat up again to get out. And it's like it's all like it's a very soft magic system. Like none of it really makes sense. It's all very loose. And I kind of like that. It's like this isn't a universe where they're worried about making or explaining every detail. Like it all sort of makes sense if you just buy into stuff like there's coins and they'll start vibrating if everyone sings and that calls the court. Like,
yeah, I guess.
I don't see why that's harder to accept than they sailed their boat so far into the ice that it went off the edge of the world so that they could,
and then they have to
like,
flip it upside
around
down
again.
But that stuff just feels like mystical to me, whereas this part where it's just like everyone's starting to sing and that's what summons the pirate courts just feels kind of silly.
I reckon it's cool.
There's also a line where one of the guards says to Beckett, they've started to sing, and Beckett says, "Finally." And
I did not get that.
So he knew that he wanted everyone to sing, and he was just kind of executing them to make
until
them
they
start
finally
singing?
started singing. Because I wasn't
really
sure
make
whether
sense.
he was supposed to like know about the whole Calypso thing, but I didn't get that vibe later in the movie. So
he knows that the Brethren Court will be called. Is the thing, like, because he wants them all to gather in one place, so they'll do a final stand so he can wipe them out. Like that's his plan.
yeah, maybe he does know more than
Like,
I thought.
He doesn't know about Calypso. He just knows that will call the Brethren Court. Like, because he didn't even know where they were going to meet. That's like a huge plot point later. Like, so he doesn't know all the details. He just knows that will get them all together, and that's his goal because he wants to wipe them out.
It's a surprisingly detailed thing for him to know, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Not really. Like, if everyone's walking around with these coins, and it's like they know the song, like that part seems coins. Like public knowledge.
I feel like this scene shouldn't have existed. I feel like it should have just started with Elizabeth rowing her boat through Singapore, to be honest.
No,
I do really love this scene.
Yeah,
it sticks in my mind years and years later.
Like, first of all, you're wrong about it not making sense, but even if it didn't make sense, it's so iconic, I'd keep it in anyway.
It's really mood setting. But I have to say, something that totally got it right at the end when it like zooms up on the kid's face, and I was like, does he have braces? He has braces.
I don't think he does.
Where did he get? But he
like,
does.
No,
where did he get these
makeup?
Pirate braces? No, I'm sure. Hang on, I've got it actually open on another tab. I'm going to the scene. I'm sure he had fucking braces because I was like staring at it, thinking, I want to see the pirate dentist character so bad. He's got braces.
Yeah, but the problem is,
I get a pick.
I've got to air a grievance here. You can't take screenshots of things in Disney Plus. When I go to take a screenshot, it like blacks out the Disney Plus screen.
Oh, does it really?
Have you all noticed that?
How are you taking?
I think I have noticed that actually. When did I go to take a screenshot of something? And I'm pretty sure
how
that
are you guys
happen.
taking screenshots?
It's like Command Shift S or something. Yeah, Command Shift S.
4.
Well, you're on a Mac, but I'm on a Windows.
Oh yeah, right.
So
I'm trying it now. This is good audio.
Yeah. It doesn't work. I tried to take some screenshots of stuff for my notes in this, and it like blacked out.
I'll send a picture.
All right. Yeah, definitely braces.
Right.
That's 100% braces.
Just, no, I mean, just could like.
Is it just me?
Up in just shitty makeup though? Like, I don't know.
This
Like that's
pirate
not
kid
that's not
looks
his
like
natural tooth color. Like he's got tooth makeup on.
Does this pirate kid look like Arya Stark, or is it just me?
He does a little.
Yeah, I
Looks
guess.
a lot like Maisie Williams. Are we back? Is this part of the episode?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sending another picture of the braces. They're 100% braces.
Yeah, Elliot, you can't deny these are braces. Maisie Williams is wearing braces.
Anyway, so that's what I took away from the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. But I mean they're covered up. Like, well they're not very
Right,
well.
Elliot.
I'm not claiming
Are
they
they?
were, but yeah, the tooth makeup is meant to like work
Oh,
them
you
in, I
reckon they're
think.
just meant to look like dirty teeth or
Yeah,
something?
that's what I
No, they're
thought
the
they were.
opposite. This kid has very good dental care.
Mm-hmm.
Then why are they black?
Pirates, I think, have good dentists.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's something I remember pirates being known for.
Is their dentistry?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
So what are we talking about?
I guess the other thing I wanted to bring up from this scene though is like we had like a whole thing last month about how one of the best things about this series has been how the villains are all a bit grayer. But Beckett maybe wasn't that, and then like in the opening of this movie really reinforced that too because this is just like so like supervillain evil, like just executing hundreds of people to get them to sing a song. Like even when you sort of learn more of his motivations, it's like this is just like as close as this series has gotten to just straight up evilness.
He is executing
Yeah.
them to make them sing a song. You're right. I hadn't thought about it like that, but it's very true. Yeah, he's just not as good of a villain as Norrington was in the first film.
No, he's a bit more cartoonishly evil, especially in this film, even
Yeah.
compared to last film.
Yeah, it definitely got worse between the films. Last time it was sort of like a bit ambiguous. In this one, he's just evil.
Yeah, no sympathy.
Okay, so then we cut to Singapore, kind of ditching the entire premise of Pirates of the Caribbean. But there's a bunch of like shenanigans as like the goodies meet up with Zhao Feng, who's like the head of the Singaporean pirates. There's betrayals, politics, all that, cool junk. And eventually they sort of make it out with a ship and a map to go find Jack because they're still trying to bring him back to life.
So I want to ask a question here, which is Elizabeth had to sneak along sailing in a strange little boat to presumably not get spotted, but Barbosa could just like walk around on the docks and he was fine. It just, even though they were going to the same place, they
Also,
it was
he
just
looks like a
weird.
pirate, and she
Yeah.
just looks like
I
some
think-
chick.
It's just like,
She's the distraction, I think.
but why was
Oh, yeah,
she?
maybe.
Why did she have to go along in that boat? It
Oh,
didn't
because
really.
it-
Again,
because
it
it's-
didn't really make sense.
What's cool
But it was
cinematography
cool.
because it's like then
Yeah.
Barbosa gets to make his own entrance. That's what it is.
There
Like,
is a few things like that in this film that
Yeah.
that don't quite make sense, but they just kind of do it, and you're like, yeah, cool. It leads to a cool scene.
yeah, the rule of cool is even more evident in this film than it was in the last two, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the vibe of Singapore in this though. Like it feels really sort of all the piracy actually feels kind of underground. Like it's a nice different tone because the first two, everything in the Caribbean, the pirates are really like out in the open and kind of flaunting their piracy.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas here, it's a very different vibe. Like this feels like a different side of the world, and it is. And yeah, like all the stuff like with the betrayals of Xiaofeng, like the reveal that Will is the prisoner, and then there's like the second betrayer, and it's like, wait, he's not one of yours. Wait,
Yeah,
whose
God,
is
that's a
he?
good scene.
And then the British come in. Like that part is so brilliantly executed. It all sort of comes like it's delivered in such a way that it all comes together in your head as it's happening. It's really good.
It was just like straight into the sort of like double crossing and stuff. I was like, oh, we're back.
Yeah.
We're back into Pirates of the Caribbean. Will's already striking a deal. Like,
yeah. They're all making moves to betray each other so quickly.
So very, very quickly.
It's just a fun fact. There's a guy in one of the hot tubs in Xiaofeng's like hideout, and he's got fungus growing out of him, and he's got like his own wiki entry. His name is Mushroom Ear. If people want to Google him at home. Unfortunately, this isn't
yeah,
Star
there he is.
Wars, so he doesn't have his own 10,000 word backstory.
It's tiny. It's like one paragraph. Okay, it's 2.
My favorite part is not much was known about his early life.
That's such a great way
or
to
his
cover
middle
up.
life, or his late life.
It's such a great way to cover up that he only appears in one scene.
Yeah, that's like the mushroom ear participated in the ensuing battle against the British, though it is unknown whether he survived the fight. It's like this guy has his whole fucking Wikipedia page because his makeup was cool.
I like the bit where it says he had spent so much time in his bathtub that he had fungi growing on his face. Like, that's what happens if you spend too much time in the bath, kids.
That happened to me one time.
Fungus, fungus just starts growing on your face.
I turned into a mushroom man.
That one sentence is the whole page. Like, that's the only fact here. Like, he sat
Okay,
in a
can
hot
I tell
tub
you a
and he
fact
got
that I did just learn on this page? I did
Yeah.
not know Barbosa had a first name and that it was Hector.
Yeah,
I did not realize
Hector
this.
Barbosa.
Have we discussed that? Oh, okay.
I don't know.
It's a very boring name.
I think it comes up more in the next film, but they've definitely mentioned it, I think.
There you go.
Anyway, another thing, in this like battle in Singapore that's really cool. Jack the monkey is here, and I just wanted to call this out straight away because somebody pointed out to us like last month we criticized how Jack the monkey just was still a skeleton and it didn't make sense. But there's actually an after credits scene for the first film where Jack the monkey goes back and steals a coin and becomes cursed again, and that's our fault for questioning the rigid consistency of the lore of these films.
Sorry.
Yeah, everyone apologize.
Yeah, we have to apologize. I mean, genuinely, one of the things that Pirates does is, despite some things seeming to not make sense or not getting enough explanation, there is an elaborately thought out backstory to everything that happens in this film.
Yeah,
in all of these films.
I think if you're willing to buy into like a few of the assumptions, like stuff like they're going to sail off the side of the earth and everyone has these coins or whatever, like if you just sort of buy those things that are barely explained, everything else adds up with a surprisingly solid amount of consistency.
I like that the monkey and the parrot were friends. I thought that was cute.
That's something this movie does a bit, actually, is taking like characters that fit similar roles and just putting them together. Like I'm thinking of at the end, Pintel and Ragetti get paired with like the 2 goofy guards from the first film who just come back for some reason. And then it just starts being the 4 of them hanging out, and it's like, oh yeah, these 4 are the same character. That's a good point. Thanks for pointing that out by putting them together.
There's some truth to that. They're very similar characters. And the 2 goofy guards were not in the second film, were they?
No,
they just came back at this one, didn't they? Yeah,
there's a bunch of characters who do that. There's like a whole bunch who weren't in the second one but are back for the third.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So they sort of leave with this like weird map that's very fantastical because it can rotate. And
but can we talk about this rotating map for a second? Because here's something I didn't get about it. It kind of looks like it's a puzzle map, right? Where you have to rotate it the right way to like reveal the answers to things.
Yeah, but it's very easy.
Yeah, because the rotation points are along the midpoint of text. So it's not like there's text where the top half of the text is mismatched to the bottom half. There's only ever really one combination that can rotate and line up, because otherwise, like, the top halves of words will clearly not match the bottom halves of words. I really didn't get why this was like a puzzle that they were
so
like.
Why did they make it like a rotating one when it was so easy to solve?
Well, no, because it's a map to many places, because it's the same one that they used to get out by rotating it a different way, and then it's the same one at the end that Jack Sparrow is using to go and find the Fountain of Youth.
So yes,
so it's like, but like I don't understand mechanically how that works. How there's sort of these different valid rotations and how you know which one is which and which makes it I cannot figure this thing out. But like I think in universe it's just sort of meant to be, oh, you rotate it different ways and it leads you different places.
But that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I could get that if they had done a bit more to like disguise the text or something, but they don't. And so there are points in the film where suddenly, Jack's looking at it and he's like, oh, if I rotate it this way, these words appear. And you're just like, how could you have missed that? There's not that many rotations you can do, and they clearly line up.
Well, because it's not like a Rubik's Cube where when you rotate one face, you're changing the other one, and that fundamentally
it's concentric circles that don't interact with each other.
Like, if it had some sort of other dimension to it, where rotating, like rings that were in parts of each other, so when you rotate one, it's pulling parts out of another or
Yeah.
something. Like, that'd make sense, but not the circles that it is. No, I
Yeah.
agree.
Didn't make any sense at all.
Anyway, so they're following this map. That's obviously magic. And they end up sailing to, like, I don't know, the North or the South Pole. It's icy. It's straight out of that animated movie Sinbad. It's really cool. And then
totally.
they sail off the edge of the world, and it's sort of at this point where I feel like Pirates 3 is just sort of telling you, hey, don't worry about the geography in this one. It's fine.
It was very Game of Thrones. I was like, I don't know what the time difference here is. I don't know how fast we've just traveled or how far. And I'm just deciding that I couldn't really give a fuck. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing. Sailing to all these places would have taken, like, I think actually years back then. So either this movie takes place over the span of like 4 years, or you just sort of have to go with it.
which makes it like all of the interpersonal stuff way crazier, right? Like Will and Elizabeth have been mad at each other for like 3 years. And Elizabeth hasn't told anybody that she killed Jack for 3 years. That's a long time.
Wait, is it 3 years?
I know, I'm
So
just
we
making
don't
that
know.
up.
Like, the thing, it's
They
very
don't
unclear.
say.
You're right, it is very unclear. But there's clearly a lot of things that have happened that take time, right? So
I feel like it's more, they imply it's more like months or something.
yeah.
Like it's maybe been like 3-4
I'm
months.
vibing
Look,
6 months. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie is very much encouraging you not to think about this, and I feel
Yeah.
like we're just going to hurt ourselves trying to piece it together, because I don't think it makes sense.
Hey, can I also ask, did I miss something? Why isn't the monkey a skeleton monkey anymore?
Yeah, I
is.
did wonder that. No, is
What do
he?
you mean it
Yeah.
is? There's no shots in the film of it being a skeleton.
Well, yeah, because he's never out at night.
Okay, Elliot, what are you talking about? It clearly is out at night multiple times.
When?
There's all kinds of nighttime scenes.
Okay, pick one.
Like there's the scene where it's right before sunrise and they're on the boat after they've just gone to get Jack.
I've still got it up in the tab.
Yeah, but there's no moonlight.
What do you mean? They don't. They're outside. Do they have to
Okay,
walk
I
into a
found one
beam
where-
of moonlight?
I found a scene where they're out at night.
I mean, that was
I'm
the
looking
same
for
in
the
the
monkey.
first movie.
Yeah, but in the first movie, that was because they were in a cave, so only the moonlight was coming through into the cave. But
Oh no, on the ship a bunch of times they were like under the sails and stuff.
yeah, you're right. But I guess that was cloudy. So I guess
Like-
the answer is just it was always cloudy.
Yeah, like the answer is they didn't really have the CGI budget for it. But like,
Mm.
I don't remember there being any specific scenes where I was like, that monkey should be a skeleton right now.
Yeah, I feel like there probably were. And the fact that we don't ever see it be a skeleton, like, how do you confirm that something's not a skeleton?
They shoot it out of a cannon multiple times. Like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It does. But then again, Jack Sparrow should have died many times in this film, and he
True,
only died
true.
once. So, I don't know. It should have been a monkey. I don't understand. Sometimes I feel like I don't understand this film and it's too smart for me.
I think you're overthinking it. I feel like the intelligence and convolutedness of this film actually sits in this real sweet spot where there's like room to underthink it and definitely to overthink it. You got to kind of get like right into this sort of middle ground wavelength that it's on, where some things you just take and accept, and other ones like character motivations and backstories, they'll be very fleshed out. Some of the lore for why the magic or why suddenly there's pirate lords that we haven't heard of, you just take it.
Yeah, that's something else that I had a bit of trouble with. It felt kind of John Wicky to me. Like, I guess as the movies go on, it's going to be more and more things that they're just going to kind of put in to the world. And it's just going to feel like it's slowly morphing into John Wick, where things are just starting to fall apart a bit at the seams. When you hint at something in the first movie, it's very cool. But when you then have to keep that consistent with other things that you're also hinting at in every subsequent movie, it kind of starts to, I don't know, feel a bit like wet porridge that isn't quite held together.
Sort of stuff are you talking about? Like, I kind of agree with you, but I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that it was like things in different films that were colliding. Like, there's nothing in the first or second film that's really bogging this down. It's like more just the introduction of new random stuff.
Yeah, and things that, like, they introduce new things and the old things are never. It's like they introduce a new crazy wild thing each time and then never deal with it again. You know, like one of the worst examples of that in this film to me is the Kraken. There was such a big thing last film, has just died in between movies, has been murdered by Davy Jones. And that's like, imagine how cool that would be to see. And this film's 2.5 hours long and they still couldn't fit in any resolution for the Kraken, which, you know, is like
Well, I
the
had not
villain
even
of the
noticed
previous
that.
film.
I had not even noticed that. That's crazy. I just always in my head had it that the Kraken was in this one, but it's not.
Its
No.
dead body is, but that's
Well, yeah.
that's it. And like the Kraken has died, and it also killed Jack. So maybe there could have been a cool thing where like Jack and the Kraken were both in the, you know, the whatever they call it, the weird
Davy
afterlife.
Jones's
The locker.
Yeah, Davy Jones's locker. Like, how cool would that shit have been? But it's just like, oh no, it was killed off screen, and here's its body that you see for, you know, a few shots. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was kind of, they got all they were going to get out of it action wise in the last film. So I agree with the idea of killing it, but I do think you're right that there's probably room to do that in a cooler way. Like, show Davy Jones doing it.
I
reckon
know,
that would have been
right?
sick.
So here's my rewrite to the film. Cut that terrible first scene with all the people singing and
I already
being
hate
hung.
you.
That's the worst. Instead, imagine if this is the opening scene, okay? Davy Jones on a ship and the Kraken comes up and he looks at it and he's kind of, there's like slimy tears going down his face and one of his tentacles wipes away the tears and then he orders fire and then the ship starts just blasting the shit out of the Kraken and he turns and looks at Beckett and Beckett just kind of slowly nods at him. And that's like, does that scene, humanizes Davy Jones, also makes Beckett clearly like a dog killer or whatever, and that's like a villain trait. Great, he's a villain, and it's just cooler, you know.
Especially if like Davy Jones is like petting the Kraken before he orders.
Oh
fire.
yeah, like close your eyes, boy, close your eyes before he shoots it with the ship. Yeah.
And then does he go to his organ and like play
And then
and
plays
sing
a sad song. Yeah.
And then we get the musical number as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then God, where were we up to in the plot? Oh yeah, so then now we're actually at the locker.
We're into a new film developed by Reuben.
Yeah,
That's where we're up to now.
I really love this series of films. Like, genuinely, I found them all so enjoyable. But you can just feel them slipping away through your fingers as you're watching them. You can feel the love of them just kind of melting as you watch them because they just are sliding slowly but surely into not being very good.
Let's hold that
true.
hold that thought for next month.
Okay, yeah.
Shit, are we seriously watching the fourth one?
Yeah.
And we have to watch the fifth one because that's got Javier Bardem in it. He's awesome.
Who's that?
He's like the creepiest.
He's the baddie in the fifth one. You'll find out in 2 months.
Yeah. Just wait. Just you wait.
All right, I'll keep it a secret from myself until then.
Okay. So in Pirates 3, we are back and we visit like Jack as he's being quote unquote tortured in Davy Jones's locker. He meets up with like the people who are here to rescue him, but he's the one with the ship now. So blah blah blah. They turn the ship upside down.
He didn't need to be rescued at all. He had just, as they arrive, he is coincidentally pretty much escaping by himself.
Well, no, because Tia Dharma sent the little crabs to him.
Is that confirmed? I was wondering why they looked the same as the crabs that she turns into later.
Well, no, she's like playing with one as they're sailing off the edge of the world, and she like throws it off the boat or something.
Okay.
Now, but there is like a thing because I was looking for it because I did remember that part always confusing me.
God, so many layers in this film.
But I like that they have those little things, and they don't overly explain them. Like they actually like, you know, respect their watchers and expect you to actually pay attention. And
I don't know. I think this film maybe goes a bit too far with it a few times because a lot of these things I'm picking because I've seen this movie. Like I saw this movie like only 2 or 3 years ago, so a lot of this I was like looking for things. Like it's sort of like the second watch. I think you kind of need.
Yeah,
Whereas I
true.
agree, in the other two films, I thought they balanced it well. I think, like, especially with all of Ruben's confusion, I think there's an argument for this one taking the subtlety a bit too far sometimes. Anyway, yeah, they get out of Davy Jones's locker by flipping the ship upside down, which is a really cool scene.
Mm.
And then on the way out, they sort of see all the like dead people, which are like Davy Jones's job to do stuff with them, I guess.
To like
Uh,
ferry them, like Karen.
Yeah. Anyway, one of them is Elizabeth's dad. He's dead. It takes a
I
while
couldn't
for that to
remember if
click
we
for
knew
her.
that. I couldn't.
No,
Did
we
we know
don't.
that? We didn't know that.
Beckett says like, "Oh, we better deal with him" or something because
Yeah.
he seems to be growing to be a bit of a thorn in Beckett's side, and then he's just dead, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit, Beckett was
Yeah, I was
not
like,
joking."
I was just wondering whether I'd like forgotten something, or whether it just was totally off screen.
No, again, it's meant to be one of those things where you're like, oh, that's what Beckett meant. But I think Beckett's line is almost so throwaway you kind of forget it.
Yeah, oh, I did apparently.
Um, anyway, yeah, this whole part in the locker with Jack is far and away my least favorite part of the movie. Like, I don't understand what it's achieving. Like, if this is doing something clever, it's way above my head. It just feels like it's just trying to be quirky Jack Sparrow times 100.
Yeah, I would agree
Literally
with that.
times 100 because there
Yeah,
are so many of him. Yeah, and then we get like, ghost Jack Sparrows showing up in Jack's mind for the rest of the film. And again, yeah, I didn't quite, I don't know.
The
I guess
bits where
he's
there was
just
the
kind of
two,
tortured.
where there was the two on his shoulder was so shit. I had totally forgotten that. Like, I did not remember that from this movie, and I was like, "What is this?" It's really weird.
yeah. Like, this is the opening scene for me. It's just like, this is the thing I'm like, you could cut this and I wouldn't care at all. I don't
Mm.
think it's fun Jack Sparrow stuff. I think there is fun Jack Sparrow stuff, and this is not it.
I feel like as well, in the last film, there was that whole big chunk where it was really like filler, and we were sort of saying there's that big hunk of the movie that you could sort of
Yeah.
just cut and it'd be okay. Whereas in this film, I feel like there's just it's like 50-50 little chunks of like filler and then something actually good, and then filler and then something actually good.
I will say it's starting to establish a pattern where there's kind of a middle, quarter maybe of this film that is just people betraying each other and swapping between different ships as they head to a third
Yeah.
location. That happened in the second film. I'm pretty sure it happened in the first film, and it happened in this
Yeah.
film again. And always that's the part that can get cut. It's so overly convoluted of like, I'm going to go to this ship, and then you're going to go to that ship, and I'm going to go back to that ship.
Yeah, it honestly did get to the point where like they'd go to a scene, it's like, when Davy Jones walks in and Beckett's like, I think you know this person, and it was Will, and I was like, oh fuck, what's Will doing there again? Like, I literally had forgotten. I was like, when did Will get there? I don't remember. Like, I can't keep up.
I agree. This one gets even more convoluted than the other two, and there's definitely it's become a series staple at this point where these movies are like an hour longer than a standard movie, and I can sort of look and be like, here's 45 minutes you could cut basically for free.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's basically the section we're up to. They sort of make it back to the real world. Zhao Feng ambushes them on this island, and then Beckett also ambushes them. And then there's a bunch of betrayals. Everyone ends up all over the place. Yeah, they're all on different ships. Like this part gets a bit confusing because they're cutting back and forth through 3 ships as opposed to usually it's just 2. And I guess that's my limit.
Yeah, they've escalated too far.
I did really like when they, like, as soon as they get back to the world of the living, and then kind of the 4 main characters like Barbosa, Jack, Will, and Elizabeth all like point their guns at each other, and then they're like,
Yeah.
and then they're like, no, but seriously. But I was sitting there like, wait, what? Why? Actually, I was like, I'm so lost. I don't know why they're betraying each other. I'm really lost.
I think that's when these movies really, really lose you. If there's ever a point where you're confused about why a character is doing something, like for me, that is what these movies usually excel at. Is it's like that character politics that we talked about last month. Like, even if all this crazy shit's going on and there's stuff that I think is silly or doesn't make sense, if I feel like I'm following what the characters are thinking, I'm still on board. And there's a few moments like that one where I think this movie loses you with that for a bit, and that's when it starts to fall apart at the seams.
Which is true, because I think that's what both of the first films did so well, was that the chaos made sense because, you knew exactly why everybody was doing everything. So it actually was relatively easy to follow even when it was really convoluted. Whereas this one, I felt a little bit more like, Will's always going like, I want to free my father. And you're like, oh, do you? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't feel it as much as I did in the last film for some reason. In the last film, I really felt the connection between Will and his dad. And then in this film, it kind of like,
it's because Will
he
and
just
his
kept saying it, but like,
Will
you
and
never
his
had any
dad.
scenes with him.
Yeah, they don't have any scenes
Yeah.
together in this film, so like, how there's no opportunity for you to actually feel it because I don't think they ever interact.
Well, and the other thing I think is like a huge part of Will's deal here is that he's betraying the others in part because he's still upset with Elizabeth for that shitty kiss we called out last movie.
Mm.
But that's never really explicitly brought up.
I was about to say,
clear
nobody
why
ever
they're
mentions
fighting.
it.
I had completely forgotten that, and so for some reason they were angry at each other, and I just did not know why.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of reliance on the second one carrying. It's like you have to remember exactly where they were at the end of the last one and be connecting those dots. And I mean I didn't have trouble with it this viewing, but I'm also like watching these for the nth time or whatever.
Yeah, legit. These films are just too highbrow and intellectual for me, I think.
Yeah, but I feel like I had forgotten that nobody ever brings up the fact that like Will awkwardly saw Lizzie making out with Jack. Nobody brought it up. It was really weird.
No, they sort of talk out their differences,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But then, like, there was tension between them for a long time, and then they just get married and it all goes away.
Well, that's what I
But
mean.
we'll
It's like
get
there
to
was
that.
all this tension running through the whole movie, but nobody ever actually brought up why there was tension.
Yeah.
It's
sort of
as
weird.
poorly handled in this film as it was in the last one. Like the stuff between them.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so in this whole convoluted part, I'm just going to sort of go through it ship by ship. So Elizabeth goes with Xiao Feng, who thinks she's Calypso, and this is basically an excuse to do some exposition on the mystery of this film. Anyway, then he dies, and he makes her a pirate lord, so she can free herself. And she ends up on the Flying Dutchman, where she meets Will's dad, and now she understands Will, I guess. But Norrington's there too. Norrington lets her out.
And tragically dies in the
Yeah, I
process.
can't believe you didn't mention that he dies.
I was so excited for Reuben to watch that.
It was
part,
so
'cause I was
sad.
like, he's gonna be
And
devastated.
the worst part is he dies. So I saw him die, and I'm like, oh, well, they're not going to kill off their best character. And as he's dying, Davy Jones comes up to him and says, oh, do you fear death or something? Or do you fear undeath or something? And Norrington stabs him, and Davy Jones is like, I guess that's a no. And I was like, oh, shit, this is going to be awesome. Norrington's going to become a part of Davy Jones's crew and be like a person that we have on the crew, and that'll be great. But no, he's just dead. It's so sad.
He died bravely.
Yeah, and he kisses, and him and Elizabeth have a kiss before he dies. And what a turnaround from someone who we are so not rooting for as a romantic hero to being clearly the best character in the series of films by the end.
Yeah, he has a great turnaround. Like this really feels like a great redemption moment for him. He didn't even really need one, but it still feels great where he's like, I've fucked up by siding up with Beckett, and I'm going to try and undo that.
It's so sad when he's like something about her dad, and she's like, "Yeah, my dad is dead," and he's like, "What? No, you went back to England." She's like, she just looks at him like, "You fucking, you idiot."
He went to live on a farm, didn't he?
Well, no, it's a fun inversion because remember he did the same thing to her with Jack in the last film. Like there was like this whole moment where Jack was telling her all this stuff about Will, and like,
oh yeah, and he's like, you can't seriously believe him. Yeah, that's so true.
I mean that does bring up like my next point about Elizabeth in this film, which is just like she's had just like a massive jump in sort of badassery and competence in this film, right? Like I'm not just making that up. Like she is, even in the last film, she was like competent and crafty, but still didn't really feel like she had her feet in the world of like the pirates. Whereas like right from the beginning of this film, she's already like she's already ready to be the pirate queen. Like it's just an astounding jump in her character.
Yeah, it felt a bit out of character, like right at the start where she, that guy's like, oh, you're protecting, like the barber's like, oh, you're protecting her. And she's like, who says I need protecting? And like jumps at him with a knife. And I was like, Jesus, Elizabeth. Like,
yeah.
When
she's
did
the one
you start doing that?
She's the one carrying all the weapons in the obligatory, like, one of the characters has to have an absurd number of weapons as they disarm themselves scene. Like, she's got all the weapons. And it was just a bit of a jump. Like, I'm not complaining because like she was like a cool badass in this film. It's just like this is one of those things that makes me think maybe it has been 3 years since the
Yeah, I
last
was about
film
to say, it
because
sort of comes back to the time jump. Maybe she was training really hard on the pirate ship.
Mm.
yeah, well, I guess she wasn't hanging out with Will, so yeah,
Yeah. But I kind of did like it more when she was more like her own sort of more subtle kind of badass. Like she was
yeah,
badass because she could like play everyone and because she was just like fearless, but she, even though she wasn't like some kind of hotshot sword fighter or whatever, whereas now she just also is a hotshot sword fighter, which doesn't make her sort of as cool, if that makes any
yeah. Well, no,
sense.
'cause she stood out before because she was holding her own despite clearly not fitting in with the pirates. Like she was still
Yeah.
she was still very much like a I don't know, well cultured British person, whatever.
Mm.
And then in this one, yeah, she just feels like she's become a mega powerful, ultra badass pirate. And, yeah, like it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind more of movie two, Elizabeth. I thought that was like more unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess something that is thought about a lot about these films is kind of the like focus of and Flanderization of Johnny Depp and Jack Sparrow as he becomes more and more a kind of caricature of himself. But
Yeah.
you're right that the same does happen to Elizabeth. She loses some of the nuance or subtlety of her character. Although something I really did like about Keira Knightley's performance in this film is that she was like very overtly doing more of Jack Sparrow's mannerisms. Like she was doing some very
Mm.
Johnny Depp style swaying around, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, which would make sense. Like if Elizabeth is trying to make this jump to being like a pirate, that's where she's going to pull it from.
Mm,
Um, I guess the problem really just comes back to like I feel like most of this character change and development happened off screen, and I'm never a fan of that.
mm.
People who used
Yeah.
to listen to Media MD will have heard me rant about time skips time and again enough, so I won't go into that. But yeah, that's probably my issue with it is that just that it happened in a way that we don't fully comprehend it. So another thing, so Xiaofeng, he makes her a pirate lord because he's going to die, and one of the things you have to do as a pirate lord is like hand it off to the next one, and like this just sort of reveals how shitty Jack Sparrow is as a person because he could have done this, ironically, to Elizabeth again, as he was about to die. Like,
No, but Elliot, the thing you don't understand is in the second film, Pirate Lords didn't
well,
exist,
yeah, I know
so he couldn't
exactly.
have
Yeah.
done that because the Pirate Lords didn't exist in the previous film because they only thought of it for this film.
But these films were made like back to back. Like that's the weird thing is they don't feel like like often they'll make movies two and three like together in a trilogy like this, and I think that's what they did, but they don't feel as connected as that.
It weirdly feels like the second film was so much a setup for this film, but they also just didn't set up a bunch of stuff that they should have.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really true, actually.
Um, but yeah, I guess the interesting thing though, like, because like Jack not passing on his piece of eight, part of me is a bit like, oh, that's a bit shitty. But then, honestly, a bigger part of me is sort of like, I'm amazed that all 9 pieces of 8 are still
Are
around.
still
Like,
in
just
rotation, yeah.
statistically, that seems
It seems like an
extremely
easy thing to
unlikely.
forget, like, as you're dying. Oh, wait, shit, somebody,
I got to pass on
take
this
the same
random
bone piece
piece
of
of
eight.
junk to somebody.
And like,
Yeah.
if you die
And do you
without
explain it
warning,
to them? Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They're pirates. Like, it's not unlikely that they're going to die a sudden death. And they're
yeah,
supposed to somehow, like, hand over this thing and also presumably explain what the fuck it is. Seems ambitious. Seems unlikely.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I enjoyed this movie a lot more than this episode is making out so far. Like we're
Oh,
about
yeah.
45 minutes into this thing. I feel like we've just been shitting on it the whole time. It's way more negative than I like to be, but
Yeah,
like
you're right.
Mm.
this movie actually was very fun.
I really enjoyed this film. I
Yeah,
know I'm
same.
also nitpicking it a lot, but that's just because it's just so silly, but it is actually a really fun movie.
Yeah. Um I I guess I am sort of jumping ahead a bit. I do think it is a step down from the other two. I had always remembered this one as my favorite. I don't think it is that anymore. But it's still very good. Like this is still a lot of fun. And we're about to get
Yeah.
to the really fun parts. I think the back half is actually better than the first part. So let's just move forward. Um which is yeah, I suppose we've got to cover this bit. A bunch of people are on the Black Pearl. They're heading to the pirate meeting. Jack and Will have both sort of separately made deals with Beckett to lead Beckett to that meeting.
Mm.
And I guess Jack doesn't like the competition, so he pushes Will overboard and gives him the compass. It's pretty funny and sort of makes sense later. It's a classic Jack Sparrow plan where at the time you're like, I don't get this, but it comes together later.
But it all just kind of works out.
I think my favorite part of this whole section though is the tea scene with Davy Jones once Will ends up with Beckett, and it's like Beckett, Davy Jones, and Will having tea together.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I realized later, I think the reason this is my favorite is just because it's got Davy Jones in it, and he's really cool, and he's the most interesting character in this movie, and he's criminally underused.
Yeah. He really is great. Bill Nye's performance is incredible. We actually get to see Bill Nye
Yeah.
for a very brief moment in this film, which is great.
Oh yeah, and speaking of people who were in the first film and are now in this one, Beckett's number 2 guy is now that guy from the first film. Remember the one who was with Norrington, and he was like, "That might be the best pirate I've ever seen."
Yeah, I was trying to pick if that was the same guy.
Yeah, Ruben and I paused the movie to look it up, and it is him.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And in fact, like, yeah, so looking at it, like, it's basically all of the characters who were in the first film and weren't in the second come back for this one. Like, there's the scene right at the end of the movie, and where Jack Sparrow has like the two. I mean, they're called prostitutes, but I don't know if that's actually ever confirmed in the films.
They call them on the wiki. They call them the wenches.
The wenches, okay. Oh, so one of them's called Giselle, and as I was looking for that guy to see if it was the same one, I found out so she's in all 3 films. Like, and in fact, she even has her own prequel, like, short film.
It's her and Scarlet, the other
Scarlet,
wench. Yeah.
So yeah, they have cameo appearances
Wait,
in all 3
who are
films.
what are they? Oh, hang on, I'm looking it up on the wiki.
Yeah, Giselle
The
and
two who
Scarlet.
always are in like Tortuga and slap Jack a lot.
Yeah, so Jack like
Oh,
promised to marry
yes.
them and auction them off in this prequel. I was reading about it, and I was like, this is
It's
fucked
really
up.
fucked up.
That
I
is
read
pretty
it and I
fucked
was like, this is making me very uncomfortable reading this.
And he's
That
called
said, though,
Giselle.
with the G.
Yeah. I was going to say that, then I realized that actually doesn't help spell it, but I don't know.
Sure it does. Anyway, yeah, I don't. This was more like this. I was like, this is the Star Wars shit I've missed. Is like this random woman who's got 3 scenes spread throughout 3 movies, has her own prequel film and a bunch of other lore from comics and shit. Like,
yeah. There's I was looking it up. There's a series of 13 books that tell the 13, I think, books that tell the backstory of Jack Sparrow as well.
Jesus,
So
really?
maybe we can do them as well.
We'll have to cover the 5th movie first. I don't want to get into that too much, but it's got some of it. Some of that's in the movie.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll know if there's canon contradiction.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, okay. So all the ships eventually make it to Shipwreck Cove, which is where all the pirates meet. And they do that. There's like all these crazy, wacky caricature pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And they hold a
every
vote.
racial stereotype has a pirate.
Yep. There's definitely parts of it that are uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a vote to decide who's going to be the pirate king. Elizabeth ends up winning thanks to Jack, and she decides they're all going to go to war.
Yeah. Can we? So part of this is Barbossa has kind of wanted to convene the pirate lords to get them to free Tia Dalma, who is actually Calypso. And as soon as it is revealed that Tia Dalma is Calypso, she kind of just forgets that she's Tia Dalma and just starts being Calypso for the rest of the film. Did that strike anyone else as weird? Like, I got the sense at the start that she didn't know she was Calypso, but then as soon as Barbossa said that she was, the facade just dropped and she was in full Calypso mode from then on.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be that, like, obviously she knew, but that she was trying to keep it a secret, and then maybe when she realized that people knew, she didn't care anymore.
I don't know. I got nothing on this one. Yeah,
I finally stumped him.
Like, just that's the bits they were showing us or not. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It's just sort of like the movie is keeping it low key until it doesn't have to, and then they give up.
But it's not the movie giving up. It's her as a character giving up. Like, that was the part that was so weird about it to me. The name Tia Dalma is not mentioned again. They just start calling her Calypso, but she was a person before that.
Yeah, but I think by that point they all know that she's Calypso. Yeah, I don't know. Shipwreck Cove is really cool. Like all these like literal shipwrecks forming a city.
Yeah, that was great.
I'd forgotten that Fantasy High actually stole that from this.
It was a very cool design. I quite like it.
Yeah. Again, one of those ones though, it's like that prison from the second movie where it's like this really cool thing that we get about 3 shots of, and that's it. And I'm like, oh my god, like set the whole movie here. I want to
Well,
see people like jumping off of shipwrecks down to other levels. Like do a chase scene in this place. It'd be great.
Pirates of the Caribbean Wedlocked, which is that prequel story that you alluded to before with Giselle and Scarlett, is set in Shipwreck Cove.
Yeah,
Elliot,
I doubt it. I doubt it gives what I'm asking for though.
Yeah, true. It's probably not what you want.
Oh, and we meet Jack Sparrow's dad here in Shipwreck Cove. He is keeper of the code. He's played by some rock star. I forget the name or band of. But like Johnny Depp
From the Rolling
based
Stones,
Jack
Elliot.
Sparrow on that guy, or like part of him.
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
the vibe of like the washed-up rock star is what Johnny Depp tried to evoke with Jack Sparrow, and specifically based it on Keith Richards, and who is now in the film. And okay, I accidentally found a spoiler for a later film that I was going to mention here, but I'm not going to mention it anymore because if we're going to talk about the later films, we can save it as a teaser for next episode, maybe.
Okay, we'll see. My memory of the fourth one is that you're probably waiting till the fifth.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. I think we just do the last two at this point. Like
We're so invested. Come on, I've got to know if Barbosa ever eats another apple.
You know what, I want to do this just so you have to watch the fourth one.
And what happens to the dog who shows up here and is like revealed to be Keith Richards' dog? Is that right?
I love that even the characters in the film are confused about it. Like they're like, what? Like what? How is this dog here? And I was like, yeah, right.
Yeah, because that dog was in charge of a tribe of cannibals.
Well, yeah, but it
last
got away.
we left it, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those rule of cool things. Like it's
not that cool. It's just a dog.
No, but then he goes, sea turtles, mate.
That was good, actually. That was a good
We also just said that exactly the same time. That was pretty good.
And so obviously they have this big pirate code thing, which was talked about in the first movie, but it's brought out here. And so I actually went and did some Googling, and it turns out this is like mostly based on a real thing. So this is going to turn into like a bit of a Deep Impact Monster Corner style vibe. I want to talk about the pirate code.
All right, educate us.
So basically, there were like a bunch of pirate codes written up because basically what would happen is like a bunch of people would get sick of shit, decide to become pirates, but then just draw up their own constitution because like full on anarchy just didn't work. And then what would happen is the pirate codes that worked for certain ships would sort of start to spread and just become a bit of a standard. And so the first one, or one of the first big ones, was made by Henry Morgan, and then one of the last big ones was made by Bartholomew Roberts. And so in this movie, it was called the Code of Morgan and Bartholomew. So I assume that's like a tribute to those two. So I went and read their pirate codes, and I just wanted to bring out some of the highlights from them because I think they're hilarious. So some of the ones from Bartholomew's pirate code. His first article is that every man has a vote in affairs of the moment, has equal title to the fresh provisions or strong liquors. So that they had to mention liquors. And at any time seized, they may use them at their own pleasure unless an unscarcity makes it a necessity for the good of all to vote for a retrenchment. So surprisingly democratic, or
both
equal.
democratic and kind of communist, which is nice.
Yeah. But then we get to some of the wilder ones, like Article 4 I quite like, which is that all lights and candles must be put out at 8 o'clock at night. If any of the crew after that hour still remain inclined for drinking, they must do it on the open deck without lights.
Oh, that's good. So there's a hard curfew for pirates. strict
bedtime is 8 p.m.
Yeah.
God, guys, it's past bedtime.
Yeah, shit, the pirates are coming for us.
I think that's a great way to get your kid to go to bed at 8 p.m. is to educate them about the real world pirate bedtime.
Forget Big Dog, like.
Oh, I'm not going to explain that for anyone.
For anybody who's not from, all of Australia, maybe just a very small
I also
part
have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's God, northern New South Wales.
It was like a thing that came up on the TV to tell your kids to go to bed, and it was this dude in a big, dog costume, and it would always be like, da na 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 Da-na-na-na-na-na, and it's like, Big Dog's going to bed. You should probably go to bed too. Okay, good night. And the fact that I am very familiar with this shows that I was never in bed at that time. And I didn't usually
Also-
go to bed just because Big Dog
I'm
was going
trying
to
to
bed.
find this, and I
Also,
cannot find it.
just that we watch too much TV.
Yeah, that too. I was just sitting up watching TV instead of going to bed.
Genuinely, I can't find this. I don't know if this is a
I'll
real
try and
thing.
track down a link. It's real. I think it's only in our section of New South Wales. This is a very obscure reference.
Like,
Yeah, God,
local
what channel was
TV.
he on?
Oh shit!
Channel 9, I think.
I see something. This was the former Goodnight Big Dog segment.
Okay, anyway.
Oh my god, it's so creepy.
Yeah, it was really creepy.
All right, hold on.
Oh,
Let me send
yeah.
a screenshot just to confirm this is the right thing.
Oh,
This is wild.
God, I just found a photo of it. Fuck, it was really scary.
Oh
my
on these
God.
The
screenshots.
first kid's on Reddit, and the first comment is, I love you, Big Dog.
Yeah, that's him. That's him.
And it used to be Prime Possum as well.
Yeah, there was Prime Possum. That's right. I think Prime Possum's still going.
So this aired at 7:30 p.m. So half an hour before the pirates had
Yeah,
to go
it
to
was-
bed.
It was after. It was after Futurama.
So it only aired in the Newcastle Hunter
Oh.
Valley region.
Yeah,
I don't think the thing that you posted, is that Big Dog?
yeah. It's the back of Big Dog.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
He's
have a
turned away
better
from the
picture.
camera.
Let me just
How long are we going to talk about Big Dog?
What else is
No,
this
we
show
can move
about,
on.
Elliot?
We can move on. I'm going to post the photo. Because this
Although I
one's
can't move
very
on 'cause I need to
good.
see the photo.
Oh my god! Fuck, Georgia, what the fuck? That's so scary.
That's
That's
why when I pulled up the page, I
horrifying.
went, "Oh,
That's some real Five Nights
Yeah.
at Freddy's shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what you use to send
So
pirate kids to bed.
That's why Elliot and I are the way we are.
Okay, so the last thing from Bartholomew's Pirate Code I wanted to pull out was Article 11, which is the musicians have rest on the Sabbath day, but the other 6 days and nights they have no rest without special favor.
That's rough for the musicians.
Wait,
But that's the code.
but so they just playing music constantly for like 6 days?
Yeah, I guess
Because
so.
it says days and nights. Because initially I was thinking, oh, they're just like nocturnal. But it says days
no,
and
but
nights.
hold on.
Georgia, they'll be in bed by 8.
Oh, yeah, true.
Did pirates have like a dedicated musician, or did
Yeah,
this
this is
just
what
mean
I'm wondering.
like anyone who wanted to play music, you're not allowed to do it on the Sabbath?
I don't
It's
know.
making me think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where he's got the like little band
Yeah,
following him
yeah.
around.
Yeah, they're fucking like jesters and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just sitting on the deck of the ship, just playing little like
Composing epics.
little sea chanties.
And yeah, so Henry Morgan's Pirate Code was a bit more like normal, frankly. It was like
Boo.
it was all just about like, hey, let's distribute money evenly, and you have to actually take part in the raping and pillaging to get any of the loot. It was all the sort of stuff you'd expect from a pirate code. I did enjoy though that all of the money is referenced in terms of pieces of 8. So it would say like the captain gets so and so many pieces of 8, the quartermaster gets this many pieces of 8, the boatswain gets this many. So I kind of feel like the writers of this movie just read that and they're like, oh, pieces of 8, that's fun. let's do that.
It's a very piratey currency. I remember I used to play a MMO called Puzzle Pirates. Shout out to any of the other Puzzle Pirates fans out here. Best MMO I've ever played. And yeah, their currency was in pieces of 8 as well.
Oh, okay. Maybe it
There
was
you
just a
go.
thing. And then the other thing, I did a search on this page for parlay because that was the whole thing in the first movie, right? Is the pirate code was about parlay. And they do it again this one. There's only one mention of parlay on the entire Wikipedia page for pirate codes, and the line is parlay is part of the code according to the Pirates of the Caribbean film series.
So it's not a real thing.
No, apparently they just fully made it up. But the fact that it's listed on the page like that just seems wild to me. That Wikipedia is just like going to give them credit for, like, it doesn't mention that they're fictional films.
But
It just says according to Pirates of the Caribbean, it was part of the code. Like if you were someone who had no cultural context around these films, you might read that and assume that that is like a documentary series telling you that this is part of the code. Like,
But this is like how all of pirate pop culture knowledge happens, isn't it? Because isn't the whole thing that like a lot of things about pirates are just kind of like the looks of pirates and stuff like that are totally like from films and not that legit.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like, yeah, the same things happened with vampires, right? Like
Mm.
vampires being burnt by sunlight was made up by Nosferatu, and there's some other movies did it too, and then it just became part of vampire lore by default. I think pirates have gone through the same thing because like both are equally real, um, and so their lore has been equally twisted.
Hey,
Go-
do you guys want to know a fun fact? Because I've been diving through the Pirates of the Caribbean wiki.
yeah.
So you know the captain who basically the second Pirates film was all about how he had a really bad day and just
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
was in the wrong place in the wrong time at the wrong time for a long time and then got killed by the Kraken. Um, his name is Captain Bellamy, who was actually a pirate, like a legit pirate called
Hmm.
Black Sam Bellamy, who they presumably named him after. So that's just a little fun fact.
Ah,
I found that out by going on the Pirates of the Caribbean wiki page on captains, which is one of those great wiki pages where they kind of have to define what a captain is before they can let themselves list all the captains. So it talks about like, oh, the etymology of the word captain, even though it's not related to Pirates of the Caribbean at all.
uh,
I love when wiki pages are like that.
um, yeah. So going back to Pirates of the Caribbean 3,
Yeah, all right, all right.
um,
Let's go back to the film.
so the big war is sort of shaping up. There's like all the pirates, and then there's all the like British Navy plus Davy Jones. And the pirates actually realize that Elizabeth's plan is super shit because they're outnumbered, and he has Davy Jones. So they decide to hold a parley on this weird sandbar that's right between the two sets of ships. There's a whole bunch of politics that go on here. Um, essentially all it eventually boils down to is that Jack and Will kind of trade teams, and then everyone goes back and decides they're just going to go ahead and fight anyway. But Barbosa has a secret plan that he's been open about the whole time. He frees Calypso.
hmm Um,
Yay.
we really need to touch on the fact that Davy Jones,
Yeah.
in what might be the best moment in the film so far, I think. Obviously, it's been set up that Davy Jones, first let's set the stage with the previously on. One, Davy Jones cannot walk on land except for once every 10 years.
Yep.
Um, and two, there was a thing where like, fuck, what was it? Oh yeah, where like Jack had the black mark in the second film, which meant that if he wasn't on land, the Kraken was going to come and kill him. And so to get around this, he would carry around a jar of sand, right? And so
hmm
I raised the question of if can't Davy Jones just carry around a jar of water and then he can
So
walk on land?
I'm gonna have to call you out on something. Last month you were very clear that actually Penny
Oh
pointed
yeah,
that out.
sorry. That was Penny's. That was Penny's thought, but this was a while ago, so I'd forgotten. And anyway, so in this parlay scene, Davy Jones is there, and you see not only is he standing in a bucket of water to allow himself to be on land, which is fucking hilarious, but at a few points you can see there's like a trail of buckets behind
Yeah.
him that he would have had to have walked through, kind of like stand in a bucket, throw out the next bucket, and then jump to it and use that to travel across land in some kind of like the floor is lava type shit. And I just thought it was so funny.
It's such a good little moment. Like
Oh,
because it's just so undignified. Like
yeah.
somebody had to set those buckets up and fucking because he's got the peg legs, so he would have had to awkwardly walk through them. It's so
Like
good.
hop between them. Yeah. It's the perfect. This film has so many good blink and you'll miss them kind of sight gags. And this is
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
Um, yeah, and I just like this whole scene in general. Like again, this is one of those things you just kind of have to buy in that these six were chosen by both teams to be the representatives, for everyone. It doesn't really make sense beyond their main characters, but it's really great. Like it kind of, I don't know if it quite reaches what I think is its goal of being like the ultimate climax of all the character politics in the series so far, but it's close enough that it's rad. Like all these sorts of schemes and betrayals all come to a head like at the same time, and everyone sort of leaves more or less knowing where everyone else is at. And there's a cool electric guitar solo. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't know why they picked these six, but whatever.
It's weird that like Will was allowed to come by Beckett. Like stuff
It's kind of
that.
like they've all been really like disloyal to each other. So then they get to go, I guess.
It's a cool scene. I quite liked it. And the bit where Barbosa like figures out what Jack's thing is and cuts it off his head, so that he can do Calypso. Yeah,
Yeah, it is cool. And just the setting as well, like them all standing on that little sandbar.
yeah. So yeah, Calypso gets set free. She just kind of seems pissed at everyone, which I think is fair. So she starts like a big storm, and the only two ships brave enough to go in are the Flying Dutchman and the Black Pearl. So they end up like 1v1ing each other in this like whirlpool, and then they get like locked together. It's just a really like I love this whole fight scene. Like this is the sort of over the top set action of this series. This really nails the finale feeling of that. And there's all sorts of crazy stuff. Like there's a wedding. Yeah, it's great.
The wedding is
I don't
bizarre.
like the wedding bit. I thought that
It's
was
really weird.
It takes the cheesiness too far. I
Yeah.
hate that scene. I always have hated that scene.
I hate some of the parts with Jack more, where he just can magically rope around. Like the ropes physics in this gets even worse than it
The
has
bit
been in
where
the
they
past.
parachute off the ship at the end, I
Yeah.
was actually like, I was having a good laugh. I was like, that's fucking ridiculous. How did he even get that together? He just grabbed a piece of rope and then it was suddenly a parachute in like 4 seconds.
Yeah,
as
it was
well.
like a sail that he had somehow managed to cut loose and then used to sail off.
Also, I don't know if you guys have you been to the gym and tried to, do like pull-ups and stuff? Just hanging off of a bar is actually pretty hard. And Jack's there like holding this parachute with Liz like wrapped around him, like he's taking her full weight and he's just there like essentially crucified, like holding these ropes. I was like, man, that would be so fucking hard. Like, and he just sort of floats down onto the water. Like, no way.
Jojo, he's Captain Jack
He's
Sparrow.
got like super strength. It's
There's a lot
ridiculous.
of Jack shenanigans in this
Yeah.
fight. He basically is Spider-Man for most of it.
But it's like
That's a very good description.
I still loved it. Like I think visually this is amazing. I think there's the part my favorite bit is the one is where Davy Jones first comes out and sees him and he's like, "Oh, like, a little bird who never learnt to fly." And then he gets to quip like never too late to learn, and that's when he flies up into the ropes. And as silly as I think some of the rope stuff is, I love that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I quite liked. I mean, it was ridiculous, but I just liked watching it.
Yeah. And like the core parts of the scene, like all the sword fighting with all of Davy Jones's crazy crew, like the bit where the eel guy gets his head cut off by Barbosa, like all the bits where like Jack is fighting Davy Jones and Davy Jones like hops in the wheel. There's a lot of really cool shit in this mixed in with some of the ridiculous stuff. And just like the background of like this maelstrom whirlpool sucking up the two ships as they're colliding.
Yeah, it's a super cool scene.
Yeah.
And the hang on, let me just check if this is where we're up to. Oh yeah. So just like the bit, with Will ending up like with Davy Jones' position, it's like a really emotional scene. I think because you've like watched these characters, like we keep saying, they spend the whole trilogy like sort of stabbing each other in the back and betraying each other and trying to kill each other. And then in this movie kind of like shows that I guess at the end of the day they were all friends or something. Like there's some kind of camaraderie because, like even though like Norrington has tried to kill her betrothed or whatever a whole bunch of times and betrayed her and all of her friends, like she's still really, Liz is still really sad when he dies. And then, Jack actually gives up his dreams just like, and he looks genuinely sad when Will gets stabbed. And you're like, oh, I guess they are all friends at the end of the day. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, and it shows that like something these movies, these pair of movies, like it was the end of the second one that really set it up was this whole thing of is Jack a good person? And if that had been more consistently dealt with in the rest of this movie, it would have hit even harder. But it still ends pretty hard that like he makes that decision that's selfless to give this to Will.
Yeah. I will say one thing that I mean, I guess I didn't have a problem with it at the time, but now looking back, I have a problem with it. The whole Calypso stuff, it doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, does it?
No, it
All
really
she's
doesn't.
really done is like locked the two main ships into a 1v1, and that's really all she does.
I'd never really thought about that.
But that's like the whole build-up
It's
of a lot
true.
of the film is around releasing Calypso, but then there's not really that much impact.
She kind of just makes a whirlpool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all she needed to do. She's just real good. Yeah, I agree. Like, it would have been cool if like we cut to like the other ships just getting torn apart by storms and stuff. Like it's a very localized thing. But yeah,
Yeah, what happens to the other ships? They just
Well,
kind of like, oh well.
they'll just sit there, I guess, and watch through binoculars.
It's that classic thing of like you've got two big armies, but you don't want to have to waste a lot of like the lives of your soldiers. So you just send your champions to 1v1.
Yeah.
And the champions are going to fight, and that will decide the battle, and no one else needs to die. It's a very kind of capitalist way to resolve a battle
But
like this.
Well, they did that, but they didn't mention it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Beckett's the baddie. The capitalist thing works. But there's something kind of epic as well about this like duel between the two kind of magical cursed ships. Like, I always liked the sense of like, these are the two crazy powerful ships. And it's like, whichever one of them can turn the tide will, will turn the tide. Because it all leads up to that great moment where when Will takes command of the Flying Dutchman, the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman both turn on Beckett's ship, and that causes everyone else to run away. And Beckett has like a really cool death scene, where he's just sort of walking around the ship and it gets blown up a lot. If you haven't seen the movie, you've definitely seen this meme.
It's a classic meme, yeah.
So and then Will goes off to do his new job of being the captain.
I've got to stop you for a moment, Elliot, because you forgot to mention the funniest thing that happens. Where when Will becomes captain of the Flying Dutchman, he gets a cool new bandana.
Oh yeah,
that bit has always confused me.
He just suddenly has a bandana, and you're like, "Wait, did Will always have that bandana?" But I think no, that comes with the job of being captain of the Flying Dutchman.
I mean, it's a great look.
It's just true. It is really, because it's totally like unrelated, because he's also got like heaps of his chest showing for some reason, but then you realize it's like, oh, it's to show his cool new scar and getting his heart ripped out. But the bandana is just like totally random.
I think that's just to really reinforce
that he's got a new
job? Lease on life.
Yeah, this is new. This is new Will.
Anyway, sorry, I had to put that out because it was just so great.
So Will goes off to do this new job. He I guess consummates his marriage with Elizabeth, then leaves her for 10 years. There's a quick after credit scene where we see that that one day on land was very successful, and she shows him his like 9-year-old son, I guess.
Yeah. Although Will should now know the cool bucket glitch, that little life hack about the bucket. So I don't know why he doesn't just come back whenever.
Because if you can walk in the buckets, you could fully rig it to be like shoes.
Yes. 2 bucket shoes. Yeah, 100%.
Or just, no, not even that, because then what if you accidentally fall over? Like, then you're done.
Like a hamster ball full of water or something.
You know those like swimming pools at the beach? Just live in one of those.
Yeah.
But,
swimming pool at the beach? What are you talking about?
You know that movie Shape of Water?
Like a sea pool. Like a sea pool.
I haven't seen that.
Or like,
I haven't seen it either, Georgia, but it's... But you know what I'm talking about, right?
No, I don't.
He could live on like a house.
What you're talking about.
Here's the question. He can obviously stand on a boat, and that's fine. So he could live on like a houseboat, or even like, one of those like fishing villages that are like built on the slats above the water.
Yeah, you totally could, like in the Maldives.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so. To be fair, one of the things is like you turn into the monster like Davy Jones. When you're not
if he doesn't do his job, which is again just weird.
So that is the one downside. Is I suppose you've got to be worried. Like Liz, clearly has other options. She's kissed 2 other men in the last 2 hours of filming. He does need to keep it tight, otherwise she will move on.
But what about after bedtime at 8 p.m? Could you not go back to your houseboat because you've done all of your ferrying of the dead because you have to go to bed now? So can't you just go to bed in your houseboat with Liz?
She could
Mm.
she could join his crew. Is another
Yeah,
option.
that's the other
Yeah,
thing.
she totally could.
There's just like this one throwaway line from Will's dad where he's like, "She can't come with us," and Will's like, "I know," and it's like,
Wait, why not?
Yeah,
Why?
why not? Yeah. Well, I guess do you have to die to join the crew?
Yeah,
maybe.
But then
yeah.
like
you do have to die. You have to be dead.
effectively Will died to join the crew. Like there's no way for him to not to like get resurrected or whatever and not be a part of the crew, right? Because if someone else takes over the job of captain, he will die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can't they just
Hey, who's
both
got
become
Will's heart?
He gives it to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He does.
Which is like
doesn't he?
another whole
Yeah.
thing because it's like way to turn her into a target.
Yeah.
Like keep it on the ship.
Ugh. If we were in this film, we would help solve
We'd
some of these
munchkin the
problems.
shit out of this.
Yeah, exactly. Make water shoes, join the crew. Like, there's so many cool things. Go back and get one more of those like magical cursed Aztec gold things. Like,
Well, no, because then you can't eat apples.
that's
Oh,
true.
it's
Oh,
not worth
what a
it.
curse!
Yeah. Okay. So then, the final part of the movie I wanted to talk about is so Jack comes out with Giselle and Scarlett and finds that the Black Pearl is missing because Barbossa stole it again. But before Barbossa did that, Jack stole the map to the Fountain of Youth from him. So Barbossa's off with the Black Pearl, not knowing where he's going, and the final shot of the movie proper is Jack in this little dinghy sailing off to find the Fountain of Youth, sort of all on his own, and it's just. Honestly,
And that's how Pirates of the Caribbean ended.
Yeah, like this
The
is such
end.
a great ending.
It's a very good ending.
Although,
Well,
except
we've
for,
had fun.
except for Gibbs, who just kind of goes back to being a homeless drunk, is the impression I got from his ending.
No, but he was with Giselle and Scarlett, so that was his happy ending, I guess.
Is it though? Because I'm pretty sure in 2 weeks he's going to be back to living in a pigsty or whatever.
I mean, can you honestly tell me his life has gotten better since he was?
Yeah, true. I just kind of feel sad. I don't know.
Yeah.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. Why does he have to go back to living in
He's the
squalor?
nicest guy in the whole series.
I know it was the actor who said he was the most honourable man in the whole series. Because I remember, because in the first film he was talking about how you're not allowed to bring women on ships, and I was like, oh, this is the epitome of the series according to him. Apart from Gibbs,
And what
who
happened
just
to
kind of-
Zoe Saldana's character? Why hasn't she been around for 2 films? I liked her.
Yeah,
about
she
her.
did just kind of go. She didn't come back.
Yeah, she got out. She's smart.
She
Probably
got
both.
off
She was
She
to-
was
while
probably
she was
filming
going, yeah.
like, you know,
Oh, that too. Like the
Avatar or
actress as well.
something.
Some movie where she's an alien.
Yeah, something where she's painted some color.
Yeah. So anyway, that's I guess aside from Gibbs and other characters who didn't come back, I think overall this just feels like the perfect ending for who the characters all were. Will and Elizabeth and their whole relationship thing kind of just getting undone works for me as an ending. Just pretend it didn't happen. Yeah. And that's Pirates number 3.
Of 3.
Stop trying to get out of it, Georgia. It's happening.
Have you seen the 4th one, Georgia? I've forgotten.
Is
Did
there
we
a
see it
mermaid in
together?
it?
Yeah, I think we saw it together.
I think I did see it like when it came out in cinemas 1,000
Yeah.
years ago. I'm pretty damn sure I did not see 5.
Can I point out the gap on the IMDb ratings between like movie 3 and movie 4 is smaller than the gap between movies 2 and movies. Like the gap between these films doesn't. It's not like they suddenly start getting worse. The decline is
Yeah.
consistent.
I think I'd built that up because, as I said, like I remembered this being the best one, and I don't know that I still hold that opinion. I still think it's very good. Like again, in fact, this has been a very negative episode, but I actually quite like this movie. But it is a bit of a step down from number 1 and 2.
Yeah. Number 1 was so much better than I remembered it being.
Yeah.
I think I was the same as you, Elliot. I remembered this one being really, really good, and it was just kind of like not as good as the other 2, but like still fun. But
Yeah. The problem for this one is that it came after the other 2. I think if this had been like the first movie, if the first movie had been at this level of quality, it would be considered a very good first movie. But yeah, I am kind of keen to relive 4 and the bits of 5 that I have seen.
And then we have to get to things like bloopers of the Caribbean.
are we going to watch the one about the 2 prostitutes?
That's Where is that? What's that called? That's called Wedlocked. That's
Where
right.
would I
Yeah.
find that?
There's
It's
also a
probably on Disney
2006 Pirates of the Caribbean: The Legend of Jack Sparrow video game, and there's a Lego Pirates of the Caribbean video game.
Yeah.
Of
I've
course,
played a
it's
bit
a
of that
Lego
one.
everything.
It's fun, as all the Lego games are. If you like one of the Lego games, you're gonna like all the others because they're all the fucking same. Um, cool. Well, why don't we cover that Wedlocked thing as well next month? Because then maybe we'll have something funny to talk about as well as Pirates 4.
I'm anticipating that to be much worse than Pirates 4, based on reading the plot summary for it.
Guys, the prostitute thing is not on Disney Plus. I guess that's not the vibe they were going for.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey, isn't Pirates of the Caribbean in Kingdom Hearts as well? Am I wrong about that?
I assume it would
I
be.
don't know.
Which just, again, feels very weird. Yeah, it's in Kingdom Hearts. I don't understand. All right, whatever.
Yeah. You want to talk about Kingdom Hearts story in this? Is that what you?
Yeah,
what you're saying?
God. I mean, if we're getting into completely nonsensical, ridiculous things, Kingdom Hearts is a top tier contender.
Yeah. Okay. So one last thing before we head out, though, I think Georgia and also me wanted to try and squeeze this in because obviously, well, George, do you want to introduce it?
Sure. Well, we were just thinking of just doing a really quick little spiel on what we thought of the first couple of episodes of The Bad Batch, which is the secret code name for Clone Wars Season 8.
It like I loved how unashamedly it was just Clone Wars season 8. Like Ruben, the title screen comes up and it says the Clone Wars, and then that gets like burnt out to reveal the Bad Batch.
Yeah, they were like just fully. Dave Filoni was like,
And then
Fully doing it.
yeah, well, and then it like opens with one of those like Jedi bits of wisdom that the Clone Wars always opened all their episodes with. And obviously it's the same graphics and characters.
Yep,
So it's
same
just
animation, same voice
yeah.
actors.
Although, so there's a new clone. One of the big things that is happening in the Bad Batch is the Bad Batch has inherited this young female clone called Omega, and she's actually played by
wait. How can she be a clone if she's not identical to all the other
She's
ones?
an enhanced clone.
Yeah. So the Bad Batch are like a set of enhanced clones where they like fucked with the genes to see if cool shit would happen.
Oh, okay.
And so she's the newest one of them, and so she's female, and they haven't quite revealed what the goal of the Kaminoans was. Like with all the other ones, one of them's like super strong, and the other one can shoot good. And one of them's really clever. And then it's like the mystery of the show, basically, at this point, is what her gimmick is.
I mean, I'm
and-
assuming they just got the clone DNA and then they just they just doubled up like an X chromosome instead of having an X and a Y.
Yeah, but there'll be more to it than that. To it, like they've
yeah, she's
talked
gonna
it up
have
to me.
special skills of some kind.
Yeah, I just hope it's not that she's got the Force. Like, I'll be so mad if it's just Star Wars. So they're like, she gets the Force.
Well, I
Yeah,
haven't
she's got a lot of
thought of that.
midi-chlorians.
I don't think so.
No,
I reckon she's got some kind of like ultra empathy or something. Like she seems to be almost able to like read people's minds or something.
Well, because she seems to be picking up on most of the skills of all of the others, just because she, unlike all the other clones, listens and learns.
Yeah,
and most
she's
of
not
Star
actually
Wars,
skilled.
honestly.
She just actually is like observing things.
Yeah, like I think her superpower in the Star Wars universe is literally just going to be like learns things,
pays attention.
But yeah, no, I'm enjoying this so far more than I thought. I like, because my big problem with Clone Wars was that I didn't connect with any of the characters. I like all of the characters in the Bad Batch a lot more than anyone in Clone Wars already, and we're like 4 episodes in.
But Elliot, do you like them even more than the trio of Padme, Jar Jar, and C-3PO?
The Holy Trinity.
The dream team.
I still can't believe they're not in jail for making that. Like,
well, also, I'm pretty sure it's like 3 episodes that had those guys. Like, it wasn't even just one.
But it's like, who sits down and decides all of those 3 is acceptable? Like, one of them is bad enough, but you put Padme, C-3PO, and Jar Jar together. Like, you're just doing that shit on purpose
I
now.
don't mind Padme. I like Padme.
She has her moments, but I think in general, the way the show used her to do, like, I feel like more often than cool politics, she was doing like whiny
It was
politics.
like somebody who had an idea of what politics was that was incorrect and then was like constantly surprised at how politics actually is.
Well, and they'd constantly tell you how cool and strong Padme is, but then all she would really do half the time is just like cry at people and tell them to not be violent. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a discrepancy between how cool everyone in the universe says Padme is and what we see her do.
Yeah, a little bit.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying the Bad Batch. I like them more than the Clone Wars characters. Although it's saying that so far, I think just about every character in the show, apart from Omega, has been an existing character from Clone Wars.
Yeah, but
Like,
also the whole Bad Batch was just a bad backdoor pilot. So really all of the main characters are new characters, if that makes sense.
oh yeah. That's fair. But like everyone they've gone to meet, like every planet they've gone to so far, they've met someone from another episode of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that is true.
And it's just like, there's a whole fucking galaxy here. Why are we meeting the same 10 people?
I love that there's that other clone who is not necessarily like every other clone, and so they're like really good friends with him. It's like, how did that even happen? It's like
Oh, the one
supposed
they
to be in
just
hiding.
adopted. Yeah, just because he's a different clone.
Yeah, they all
Anyway,
just like
yeah,
happen to know each other.
yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic for where this show's going.
I like the theme that they have. You know, that the Mandalorian showed that everybody loves a good like awkward sort of father child dynamic.
Yeah, and they've just,
Like
you're right. They've just
big
doubled
strong
down on
warrior
that.
somehow gets roped into reluctantly being a really great dad, and it's just like exactly the same thing as the
Oh god,
Mandalorian.
I hadn't even thought of that. You're right. It is just,
It's
it's
very
just
similar
animated
premise.
I
Mandalorian.
was thinking that. It does sound very Mandalorian.
Because like, yeah, Omega is like super innocent because she was like isolated by the Kaminoans to be like educated rather than violent. So she's yeah, God, you're right, Georgia.
Sorry,
Also,
I burst the bubble. But you know what I'm really liking is actually the like all the scenes that I probably supposed to be the boring bit, but like all the scenes looking at the kind of politics behind what happens to the clones after the war.
yeah, I
And
agree.
like the transition to the Empire, that's way more interesting to me, honestly, than well, I mean, I really liked Clone Wars probably more than like you did. So I really like all that little like sort of characterless world building stuff. Um, but I really liking that thing of exploring like, yeah, how like politically how that all like shook up, and you know, seeing the Kaminoans like shitting their pants because like what are they gonna do now? And
Yeah, with the Empire.
yeah.
Well, I agree. I kind of like that because it's an area that hasn't been explored much. Is like the actual bridge of like the Empire forming. Because usually it just goes from the Republic to just suddenly everyone's on board with the Empire. Um, so kind of seeing that happening is cool. And yeah, the framing of like it being around the clones because it's actually using like this show is doing a better job than Clone Wars ever did of using like the concept of like a clone army as like a philosophical thing. Like, what do you do with this army of hundreds of thousands of clones that you made that now you don't have a use for?
Mm.
So I kind of like that they're exploring that.
I think it's a little bit of a stretch though, because like the whole point of clones is supposed to be that they. Oh no, I guess the whole thing about clones versus droids was meant to be that the Jedi liked the clones because they were people and they could like think for themselves and they had their own personalities and stuff and their own like moral compass. And I guess they're trying to sort of also go for this idea that the Empire doesn't want that. They want like
Yeah,
just good soldiers who follow orders or whatever. But then they're just getting randos who, I don't know. I was like, I don't really see how that's.
yeah,
They're trying to sell this whole thing about like, oh no, it'll be better if we phase out the clones. And I was like, yeah, but why?
yeah.
I don't
I,
understand why.
I'm interested to see it go forward because I
Mm.
they just you have to explore that in this show because the premise of the show is, hey, here's a bunch of clones that are different, and if you're not going to explore the concept of clone identity in that, then why are you bothering? Um, so yeah, we'll see. I think the big takeaway for me from this show so far has been so the actress who voices Omega is actually a Kiwi, and it is just revealed that actually the guy doing the voices of the male clones, his Kiwi accent is not that great.
It's not very good. And then she's just got this perfect Kiwi accent that's so adorable. And then there's just all these fake Kiwi accents all around her.
Yeah. Can you believe that actress? It's like a 33-year-old woman.
Really?
Yeah, right?
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. Just because I think it's like the guy who voices the other clones. He's like the guy who did like
Doesn't
Appa
he-
and Momo in Avatar, I think.
Oh, does he? I
Oh,
thought he
D.
also...
Bradley Baker.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he also
Whoa.
I think he was also
big
like
Avatar fan
Ratchet
over here.
in Ratchet and Clank,
He does anytime you have a voice being animal being
like an animal
voiced,
voice. He's the
it's D.
go-to
Bradley
animal voice
Baker.
actor.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Because I think he did like potentially General No, there's a guy who did all of the droids and General Grievous, and I can't remember if that's also him. I don't think it is actually. I think it's another
No.
guy.
But you can see the logic for going to this guy though, because if he does all those animal voices, I suppose if you need someone to voice like dozens of clones and give them all their own distinct personalities, like you need someone who's got a wide range.
Because they do a good job, like with the Bad Batch, they all have like very distinct, like you can hear it's the same voice, but they're like got slight little differences, which are really fun.
They are all caricatures of
they're very
clones,
caricature-y.
So, yeah, still.
Sorry, I've just got something else I want to talk about here, and I apologize, but I just need to bring this up. You guys know Moana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the chicken.
Is this who the chicken is?
Yeah.
I know who the chicken
It's
is
Alan
voiced
voiced
Tudyk.
by Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
And I just can't get over that fact because every time I think about it, I just think, like,
He died.
Why? It doesn't make any sense. Why? It's just
Also,
it just makes chicken noises.
He's
I don't
also
understand.
the only. I'm pretty sure he's the only cast member who's not from any kind of like Islander background, like Pacific Islander background. He's like the only white person / non-Pacific Islander person in the film, and he just like because he's voicing the chicken.
Yeah,
They could have had anyone could have voiced the chicken probably.
He took a weird pivot like 8 years ago to just doing voice acting.
Oh, I'm
mostly
very glad for it because he's in he's in Doom Patrol and he's in Harley Quinn and he's fucking brilliant in both of those shows.
I need to watch Harley Quinn.
Same. What's it on?
It's on
Binge
here.
The fuck
Which
is Binge?
is rapidly becoming my top tier.
Binge, Georgia.
Binge has the best content in Australia. I'll go to bat. It's second best after Dropout.
Yeah,
I'll go to bat for it.
No, Binge is all of Foxtel's content, Georgia.
Oh,
so
so I can get rid of my Foxtel finally, can I?
It's exactly the same as Foxtel now, but it costs a third the price. If anybody listening to this is on Foxtel now, get rid of it. I'm
literally clicking onto Foxtel right now to unsubscribe.
I told you about this like 2 months ago when I joined Binge.
Oh, well, I forgot
Binge has all the good shit, legit.
Yeah, well, it's all like for non-Australians, it's where all of like AMC, HBO, DC, all of that stuff's gone. I'm hoping eventually they'll get Young Justice season 3.
Is that ever going to be available to us?
I want to watch it.
I started watching a little bit of it, but I know what we've just spoken about for 2 hours, but I actually hate pirating. Like, it's really inconvenient.
Oh yeah, 100%.
No, but that's the thing. I'm like, pirating is now
ironically
harder.
hate piracy.
Ironically, I hate pirating.
DC, I don't want to pirate your show. It's actually harder to pirate than it is to get other legal things. Please, just give me a way to view it. Anyway.
Here we go. Cancel subscription. Are you sure you wish to cancel? Yes, cancel, please.
Yeah. You can have the second profile on my Binge account if you want to.
Please tell us why you are cancelling. Because I'm switching to Binge. That's literally an option.
I was pressured to by a podcast co-host. Is that an option there?
Because I found out Binge existed and I decided no. Any extra comments? No. Cancel my membership.
All right. Well, now that we've achieved the goal of this podcast,
should we end with our signature outro?
All right. Ready?
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Bye, Ahoy, listeners.
Nailed it.